11:34. It's 11:34. Tshidi Madia in for Clement Manyathela. I did say earlier on that we'll have a conversation about the trust deficit that exists between communities and police. Yesterday we spoke about Westbury. Today we're speaking about Riverlea. And all these areas are affected, but also what you're seeing is community members seemingly turning their backs on police. I want you to also weigh in on this conversation. If you've got questions for our guests, please feel free to call in and ask questions. If you've got a view about what can be done to make things better, feel free to call in. Our number is 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. I'm joined now on the line by two guests to discuss the story. I've got Ian Cameron, who's Chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Police, and I'm also joined by Bernice Dollie, a Riverlea Community activist. Thank you both for making time for us. Bernice, let me start with you. Good morning and welcome to Radio 702. Let's speak about what the community is experiencing in Riverlea, what the frustrations are actually about.
Good morning, Tshidi. Thank you for having me on your show. Before I start, I want to say greetings to the minister or the member of parliament that is sitting. I didn't hear correctly what that is on the line with me. And then also greetings to the residents and the people and the listeners. When you speak about the police and the community, I'm going to be straightforward. And I think our straightforwardness can't break any friendships. Before we had faith in our police, and it's sad to say it was the old apartheid government that we had faith in, the people that we were supposed to be fearing. The police that we have now, we've become more of a friend to them, majority, because it needs a community engagement. Without the community, the police won't be able to do their work, because it is us that sees what is happening in the communities. So if we don't have a relationship with our police officers, I don't think they make any success arrest or anything. So the relationship between the communities, we are scared to go to the police, even if it's an abuse of a woman. I'm making an example. Just to go and stand there, the treatment that we get, they're either sitting, they would question you, like, they'll make you feel inferior, scared to tell them what actually happened. Because some of them would even laugh at you. And we've been honest here. Our police station in Riverlea, it's like if I have a problem now, I can run up there. It won't even take me about 5 minutes or 10 minutes to run up here. That's how close it is. When there's a gunshot, I don't think the police cannot hear. The visibility of our police is missing in the communities, and yet the Langlaagte police station and the community is so close by.
I want to bring Ian Cameron in for a second. Ian, you're listening to Bernice speak about the experiences, and, she says that the police, in essence, were more effective during apartheid. That is concerning, because police then were working very differently. They were not what you want of the police force. What you hear now is you want police force that have relationships with communities, that aren't there to enforce a particular view. Yes, law, but are meant to also work and aid and be part of the community. What are police meant to be? The police presence in communities, their role, their relationship. What is ideal?
Yeah, thank you very much. So first of all, the frustration is immense, and it's all over the country. Our policing model is based on a what's meant to be a community policing model. In other words, you've got community policing forums. That's your ground level oversight function. It's meant to function that way. And there should be this constant engagement, this trust relationship with communities on ground level. And it should work in a way where your police station is a one-stop shop to resolve certain issues. Now, as was just said, it is extremely frustrating at the moment, because apart from the resource shortages, and we'll get to that now, that trust relationship certainly is not there. And what makes it difficult is I think on a very senior level, over the years, the trust relationship got far worse, because certain members, especially on a senior level, for so long were allowed to act with impunity. And even now, we still have many questionable characters in high-level positions in SAPS. And therefore, it's easy to see why it is going the way it is on ground level, because even on ground level, you've got members that get away with significant transgressions. And you can just imagine, apart from the community, you can just imagine the frustration for all of the good police members that are still in the South African Police Service. I mean, they feel vulnerable, they feel exposed, they can't trust their own colleagues. So it's an extremely difficult situation. And then I must also emphasize, I think it was yesterday or the day before, a complaint was lodged against me by Pop Crew at the Ethics Committee in Parliament, specifically about my remarks regarding the protectors or so-called protectors of the Deputy President when they assaulted those innocent civilians next to the road. So that specific case is an excellent example of thuggery by bad cops, in my opinion, and the fact that they are then defended as though they are above the law, and that can never be allowed.
That's another big thing in terms of what happens when police are found wanting, and I think that's kind of what this community is talking about as well. How widespread is it? We speak about Riverlea and what happens around illegal miners. There is a question around what happened in Westbury as well. How widespread is it where we are seeing communities say, actually, we don't want to trust the police with our well-being, with our safety and security. We don't want to necessarily work with the police.
It's something that I've noted across the country. I mean, I can tell you, I get hundreds of complaints every single week regarding exactly that. The frustrating part is, and I say this very openly, there are really still a lot of phenomenal people serving in SAP. So, at least at the moment, we can still refer people and try and assist where we can with strong individuals that do remarkable jobs. I just think that there's a big cleaning up process that would need to happen in the higher echelons of SAPs. And if we don't do that, we can't expect much to change on ground level. We must also remember that the SAPS model at the moment, and this is where I don't completely agree with the structuring at the moment, or the fact that very high risk kinds of investigations are done on station level, is that, let's use you as an example. You are now Constable, let's call you Constable 702 for today's discussion. You are Constable 702. You have got to investigate an illegal miner, and you know that that specific illegal miner trades firearms with someone that lives in your street, and you live in that same community, and you know what I mean. So you're so exposed. You just don't have the kind of protection that you need, and that is the case all over the country, and that's what makes it difficult for the police.
Bernice, I want to come back to you now to bring you back into the conversation. You spoke about this lack of trust. What would you want to see happening to try and close the gap where residents can maybe lean closer to the police?
More community engagements with our police officers, more visibility, especially after school, because now we have a problem with, gangsterism is real. I'm not going to mention names because we're not part of gangsterism. We are praying mothers, and we want to see peace in our communities for all. That is one of the comments that I want to make. We are tired of seeing that our kids are hurting each other. It is sad for us parents to see this society doing this to themselves. They are hurting themselves and their brothers and children that they grew up with. So it's very sad. That's one of the comments before I do anything else. So more police visibility at schools, especially our high schools. When they go in the morning and when they come out, because after schools when they walk, the magic happens. I think you've seen the incidents in Westbury, you've seen the incidents in Eldorado Park, and most, not only in our communities, in other communities as well at the schools, what is happening. Then we've got a major problem with the mining. It's all around us in Riverlea. When they shoot on, or when they go out to go and raid, that engagement to just communicate with the community, even if it's on radio, to say, community, on this day, we are asking community leaders or people to be indoors, because stray bullets are killing our people also out there when they are fighting. We're not sure between the police and the Zamazamas. We're not sure when it's the raid's going to happen. It's a war zone in our community. And innocent bystanders are getting hurt. So that visibility of the police, I mean, the mining is happening right across Langlaagte police station. Community engagement, let's find a solution. How are we going to close these mines? Or even, I don't know, communities must benefit from these mines. Maybe we can teach them to mine, because if it's a mining community, there must be some kind of solution. And the Minister of Police, when he came to our community, Becky Cele, unfortunately he left. He made a vow to, and he said to us, watch the space. The space is starting again. Now it's starting again. You've seen on the news, our councillor was there. Thank you very much. Our councillor is hand-on. We want to give him that with the mining. There is community forums that has been created by the community. The police must find out what the community is doing. There is brigades on the ground. The police, not all of them are bad.
All right. Bernice, I'm going to ask you to hold for a second. Danny in Riverlea, I do see you. I'm going to come to you after this break to get thoughts from residents in Riverlea, what the concerns are, and what are the possible solutions. What is the way forward when there's such a massive trust deficit from communities when it comes to police? 11:49, the Clement Manyathela Show, Tshidi Madia standing in for Clement. We are having the Thursday dialogue, and we're discussing ways to manage and to close that gap, the trust deficit between communities and police officials. I'm joined on the line by Ian Cameron, who's chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Police, as well as Bernice Dollie, a Riverlea community activist. On the line before I went to the break, I said I've got Danny from Riverlea, a resident who also has views about what needs to be done. Residents have been complaining about illegal mining, but also the lack of police visibility in the area, and the fact that it is an area that's battling with crime-related, gang-related crimes. Danny, good morning. Welcome to Radio 702.
Tshidi, good morning to you. This is Danny again. And good morning to your guest. And hello to Bernice. Tshidi, the problem in Riverlea, it's not only the police problem. We know that the police got shortcomings. They're short-staffed. There's always no vehicles that are deployed whenever we are in trouble or whenever people reach to the police station for assistance. But I think what's been happening recently, and since the Zamazama issue, is the lack of political will and the failure of our government to ensure that we formalize the informal settlement, which is called Zamampelo, just right next to the doorstep of Riverlea. People in Riverlea are selling their houses and moving out because of that informal settlement. That informal settlement is a calm haven, not only for Zamazama. What we request the police, if they're listening, and the authorities, is to ask them to come up with long-term strategies to deal with crime, number one, to look at the efficiency and whether the police got enough manpower and vehicles to deal with crime and to provide service to the community. We know that since last year, when the police and everybody came to Riverlea to try and deal with the Zamazamas, it was a short-term strategy. What we're asking them, come and close the operation of the Zamazamas.
Okay.
Then we can deal with these people.
All right.
But they're not doing that.
Okay, thank you for that, Danny. Let me bring Ian back in now. Ian, I mean, that's the thing. It's short-term strategies. People even argue that when something goes awry, the police arrive, the media arrives, it's a big show and tell, it's a big spectacle, but it becomes quiet, the police go away, and the actual work to try and deal with the issue isn't there. And I think what complicates illegal mining is that actually, in some of these communities, they are benefiting from the unlawful operations that are at play.
So let me start just with a short-term approach that we see the whole time. We very often, Riverlea itself and surrounds many other communities that struggle with the same challenges here, that we have National Intervention Unit being deployed there, or members from TRT, and then you've got this whole, almost an army of police that arrive in uniform, and they stabilize for a short while, and when they leave, everything is back to square one. So that approach is not sustainable. Something that we've been fighting for quite a bit the last few months in Parliament is to say that it must be we must get away from this low-level, high-arrest kind of model. Every time we hear about Operation Shanela, the first part of Shanela, we hear about all of these arrests being made, and our answer is it's good to make arrests, but what were the convictions? How many convictions came out of it, or were they all just released the next day? And we very, very rarely hear about the conviction rate. So I think we need an integrated approach. We need to make sure that, especially with something like gangsterism or illegal mining, it must be a prosecution-led type of investigation. At the moment, it's siloed. The investigation is done, and then it's just handed over to a prosecutor. And very often, when that prosecutor says we won't prosecute the matter, it's left. It's not taken on any further. Whereas the prosecutor should actually be giving guidance as to how the investigation or the docket can be improved in order for successful conviction to happen. And that's the way we need to approach it. Another part is, I think we focus on foot soldiers far too much. Everyone just wants to stabilize the ground level issue, which is critical, especially for innocent people that face the danger. So there's no debating that. But that being said, we need to zoom in on the kingpins, because we very rarely hear about successful conviction of the kingpins. For example, the South African Revenue Service should play a role. How can we get the kingpins out of circulation and make them also close shop?
I'm going to play a voice note. The questions come through on the voice notes. Please take a listen.
Hi, regarding this policing situation and the Westbury example, I honestly think people don't know what they want. If I recall, last year, the Westbury residents were crying crocodile tears, crying that police is doing nothing about drug abuse and all kinds of things. Now there's an operation, and now the complaint is, they're not being sensitive enough. They are not telling the community what they're doing. What is the use of having police operations if the entire community know an operation is about to commence? I really think as South Africans, we need to look at ourselves. We can't keep complaining if the police is trying to do something and then we don't like how they do it. Our crime is out of control. At this stage, I'm almost at a point where I won't ask questions anymore as long as the crime rate comes down drastically. So I honestly think, people need to decide what's more important, to live in a crime-free society or, to be handled with kid gloves. We can't have it both ways.
Bernice, I want to give you the last word. I thought maybe I'll close off with Ian Cameron, but let me give you the last word, Bernice, because that's criticism towards the community. And when you're an activist that you represent, that I think she said you crying crocodile tears, that you want for the police arrive, and then you are unhappy and dissatisfied. Just a very brief reaction, please.
That's what I said. The community and the police need to work together in order for us to solve the crime, because we, the community, knows what's happening. If we're not speaking or we don't have faith in our policing, and the police doesn't have faith in the community, nothing will happen. More in community engagement, more opportunities, more planning strategies, and that's something that will work. Community, policing, government, all of them together. Their word must be their honor. You can't say on the media, the ministers or Panyata says they got eye in the sky. When some crime happens, they're going to install cameras in all the communities. Those things are not happening because there's no community engagement.
All right. Thank you, Bernice. I think it does boil down to that. Ian, I'm going to try squeezing 5 seconds of your thoughts. Parting shot, what needs to happen? It is about community engagement. I imagine you stand on the same, from the same point.
Yeah, firstly, I think communities must make sure that if anyone attacks the police when the police are doing their work, those community members need to be exposed. It's absolutely unacceptable. And the second part is On the organized crime part of these types of issues, we can't have local police investigate it. And we need to make sure that where local police were involved, but there was no result. I think we need to look into lifestyle audits.
All right, thank you so much. That's Ian Cameron, Chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Police, as well as Bernice Dollie, a Riverlea Community activist. How do we close the gap between the police and communities that they're meant to serve?